Hello everyone, how are you doing? It's been ages since I reacted to anything on this channel. So today I'm going to react to some autism memes. As someone on the spectrum who has an adult child on the spectrum, I think I'll have something to say. Let's get into it. Everyone with autism was born as a result of sex. Sex causes autism. So there has been this debate that's been going on for literal decades as to what causes autism, and it seems that everyone has a theory. There was the refrigerator mother theory, which was, if you behave in a cold, distant manner towards your kids, they're going to get autism. Or, if you take Tylenol during pregnancy, or if you do this thing, or if you do that thing, and it's... The truth is we don't know what causes autism, but some of the theories that have come out have been kind of outlandish, and I think this is a dig at that. I guess technically speaking, not everyone with autism was necessarily born as a result of sex, because there are the IVF babies. We gotta consider them. Some of them must have turned out to be autistic. My significant other's mom refuses to vaccinate her autistic son. What's going to happen to him? Double autism? Okay, I'm gonna say this. Not everyone will agree with me. Vaccines do not cause autism. The so-called vaccine autism link has been thoroughly debunked. There is so much scientific research that says vaccines don't cause autism. So there are parents of autistic kids who say things like, well, my son is autistic. I cannot get him vaccinated. Like, what's going to happen? The autism's already happened, so what's the harm? Many top scientists are on the autism spectrum, so technically autism causes vaccines. They're not wrong. A lot of autistic people are absolutely brilliant in such a big variety of ways. There are people who keep acting as if autism is this terrible thing, like it's the worst thing that can happen. It's like, oh my gosh, my kid's autistic, this is the end of the world. And yeah, look, when my son was diagnosed with autism, it was pretty devastating because I didn't know at the time that I'm on the spectrum myself. And I didn't really know much about autism, and I didn't know anything about raising a child who's on the spectrum. So yeah, there was an adjustment, but once I kind of got over that, it's like, so he's autistic, so what? I'm autistic, I turned out okay. Now you just know I'm going to try and say this in a Forrest Gump voice, which is totally gonna fail because I do not do accents very well, but we'll give it a try. Life is like a box of autism. You never know what you're gonna get. See, I suck at this. It's true though. It's been said that if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. It shows up differently in everybody. There are so many different ways in which it can manifest. My son and I are very similar in a lot of ways. I look at myself as a young person. My early childhood development was actually very similar to his. But we are so different in so many respects, and his little weird autism quirks are not the same as my little weird autism quirks. So everyone's different, everyone is unique. Master Yoda, when will a child with autism potty train? When they are ready, young Skywalker. When they are ready. This is so true. I've seen this in so many respects with my son. Not necessarily with reference to potty training, but with a lot of skills. He's the kind of kid who takes a long time to learn some things, but when he gets it, he gets it. And he's going to get it when he is good and ready to get it. And there's nothing anybody can do to force him to learn it before he is ready to learn it. You might be an autism parent if your child can learn more from computers and television than they can from human interaction. There's this big thing in the parenting world about should we limit screen time, and kids should only get half an hour or however much time of computer time a day. But my son has made so many gains because of his access to technology. It's been quite remarkable. There is so much fantastic educational stuff out there for autistic people. I think when it comes to screen time limits, the quality of screen time has to factor in here. There is such a thing as good screen time and bad screen time. And maybe we should be distinguishing between those two things. Maybe there shouldn't be hard and fast rules as to, X amount of screen time is going to damage your kid. I think it depends on what they are doing with that screen time. For myself, I have never limited screen time for either of my kids, and they are really good at self-regulating. They'll have their bit of screen time, do their thing on their computers, but they love being outside. They love doing other things. They are not the kinds of kids who sit around playing video games all day. And screens are part of life these days, whether we want them to be or not. That just is the way the world is. And maybe there should be more of a focus on teaching kids what constructive things they can do on screens and what things they can do on screens that would be damaging to them. Make a sensory bin out of beans, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Yeah, I can relate to this. A lot of autistic people are sensory seekers, so they like things like bins of beans and bins of rice and things that can give them a certain sensation. Sometimes it's the way something feels. Sometimes it's the way something sounds if you rattle it. It can be all kinds of things. Sometimes it's the way colors mix and meld together to create a visual effect. But when that thing breaks, if it consists of a lot of little pieces, then you have a huge mess to clean up. For my son, when he was little, it was little pieces of Lego, like the little tiny pieces of Lego. And we had these giant Rubbermaid bins full of little pieces of Lego. And he would pick up these bins and just turn them upside down. He'd just go, and they would come cascading down all over the carpet. It sounded really cool for my son. But then we had the fun and games of getting it cleaned up and teaching my son that, if you spill something, you got to have the consequences of cleaning it up. And, so that's what that was like. An autism parent, when they finally find the missing item their child has requested for the 937th time that day. Yes, my son has his things that he is very attached to. I have my things that I'm very attached to. And if I don't have those things, it legit makes me anxious. My son has those things as well. He has these Lego pieces. There are maybe 9 or 10 of them. They are pink and yellow. They are specific Lego pieces. We have maybe 100 pink and yellow Lego pieces that are the same size, the same shape. They look identical, but it has to be those specific 10 or 11 Lego pieces. There was this time we went to the United States for a few days to see a friend, and my son took his Lego pieces with him. And when we were driving back, we stopped in a restaurant halfway to have lunch. We left the restaurant, we're heading home, we're about halfway home from the restaurant, and my son suddenly goes, I want my Lego, I want my Lego. And we're like, where's your Lego? And we're looking in the car. Did he drop it under the seat? What's happening with it? We called the restaurant we'd had lunch at. And they said, oh, yeah, we've got this Lego. We've put it away safely. I mean, we were 2 hours past the restaurant at that point, but we turned around and we drove back to get it because we knew that my son needed his pieces of Lego. Nothing else would do. One of my comfort items is the mug that I have my first cup of coffee in every morning. And it has to be that mug. I own a ridiculous number of mugs. I have so many mugs. I never have enough room to put them all. But there's this one mug that I have to use first thing in the morning when I'm having my first cup of coffee of the day. Anti-vaxxer logic. Can't get autism if you die from polio. Yeah, so this is another thing about this whole vaccine autism blah that does my head in. Let's say it was true that vaccines gave you autism, which it isn't. It is not true. So this is purely hypothetical. Hypothetically, if it was true that vaccines caused autism, so what? I would rather have an autistic child than a dead child. Just saying. I never make eye contact with people because to me it's sensory overload and I can't pay attention to what they're saying. There was a time when autistic kids were forced to learn how to make eye contact. I am going to say this. Please don't force your autistic child to learn how to make eye contact. If you're a teacher and you have an autistic student, please don't force them to make eye contact. A lot of people see lack of eye contact as a lack of respect, but for autistic people, eye contact can be akin to torture. It can be extremely painful. It can be counterproductive. If you're trying to get an autistic child to do something and you're forcing them to make eye contact while you're explaining it to them, chances are they're not going to succeed at whatever task you want them to do. A lot of autistic people focus better and they feel less pressure if they are not forced to make eye contact. Autism parents after a meltdown. Yeah! I did it! We survived! We have overcome. I remember that feeling well. It has been a long time since my son has had a meltdown. When he was little, the meltdowns could get intense. They were frightening because he was at risk of hurting himself. And we would have to literally lie down with him and restrain him to prevent him from hurting himself. And some of those meltdowns could go on for a long time. And when they were done and everything was calm, there was the sense of victory, we did it. This is accurate. When you meet the autistic goal of your dreams, aww, and it's a diamond encrusted fidget spinner. Fidget spinners are fantastic. I sometimes play with fidget spinners because they do, I don't know what they do for me. They do help. I'm a very fidgety kind of person. I need to be doing something with my hands. If I'm on a Zoom call or watching TV or watching a YouTube video or something that is just purely visual, I have to be doing something with my hands, and a lot of times the fidget spinner is it. It helps me retain my concentration on whatever I'm doing. Autism rule number 38. If one of the few foods your child will eat is chicken nuggets, you will probably be eating a lot of chicken nuggets. Chicken nuggets was one of the things when my son was little. Grilled cheese sandwiches was another. And mac and cheese was another. Those were like the three things my son would eat when he was little. And it was a textural thing. He just couldn't handle new sensations and new textures of new foods. As he got older, he started to introduce more things and more tastes and more textures. There are certain things that he still will not touch. And this one's related. How autism parents look when their child eats a new food. He ate that food. He ate something new. Look, 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 look. Is he going to do it again? Is he going to do it? Yay! That is so true. Although I'm not sure that is specific to autism. My younger son used to be a very picky eater when he was little. And that was equally my reaction when he tried a new food. So, not specific to autism, this one. FYI, your 1 million YouTube hits are from one autistic child. Technically, this isn't true. That's not how YouTube works. They don't count multiple views from one IP address in one go. But the sentiment is accurate. You know, I have my videos that I watch over and over and over again. I have books that I have read 7 or 8 times and I'll read them again. There are movies I've watched multiple times and I'll watch them again. Videos that I watch many, many times. You know, my son is big on his YouTube videos. He loves watching his YouTube videos and, you know, he'll watch the same one over and over and over again for like an hour. That is so true. That is a great place to end this. I hope you've learned something about autism today, and if you've had a bit of a laugh, that's a bonus. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, please subscribe if you haven't already. Live your best life and be kind. Bye.